Hello and welcome to another Kerfuffle panel webinar. And today I'm joined by our guest, Paul Gander. He's the founder of Stitch. Hello, Paul. How are you doing?
Afternoon. Yeah, very well. Thanks, David.
We've got Jack Soares. He's the group marketing manager at Centric. How are you doing, Jack?
Very well. Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Our pleasure. We've got Peter Lightfoot, managing director, Elevation Estates.
Good afternoon.
Hello. I've got James Burgess of Elliott Lee Estate Agents.
Hi, David. How you doing?
And last but not least, we've got Graham Collis of Exposed Property.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon to everybody. So today, our main topic of conversation is the way that we as estate agents communicate with our customer base. And that has changed rapidly over the years to allow for new technology. And I suppose if I would have said to any one of you working in a estate agency, say sort of 10 or 15 years ago, that you would be messaging your clients and that would be a way of getting their attention, you might have said to me, nothing will ever replace the traditional telephone call. But we live today in the age of WhatsApp communication. So I guess what we want to know is, how has this changed your business and how have your clients reacted to it? So perhaps if we start with Pete, when did you introduce this to your business and what was that first reaction from people, both staff and your client base?
I think we signed up November 2019 and we trialed it through our lettings department, if I remember correctly. Paul, probably correct.
Yeah, no, that's about right.
And obviously we were kind of in the midst of working our way through it when we hit coronavirus for the first time, which was a real godsend, actually, particularly on the letting side, because we were still able to communicate with people during a time where we weren't able to give them any written paperwork, etc., etc. So I was kind of running a skeleton staff with some people from home, and WhatsApp. We had, I remember telling you this story, Paul. We had one tenant who inquired through Rightmove and then got the automated response, came to us via Stitch on WhatsApp, and we did the entire let procedure right the way through. In fact, the first time I actually physically spoke to him, either on the phone or in person, was when I handed him the keys to move in. The entire transaction was done via WhatsApp, which was, you know, obviously a good test of the system. And then since then, when the sales teams came back in and our new homes operation opened up again, we've rolled it out, you know, to those departments as well. And it's a bit like you alluded to right at the start. It's about communicating with people in a way that they want to rather than we choose to. We still get some of our staff needed a bit of a kick because they would just get the WhatsApp and then phone the people. Yeah. We had to kind of explain, though, you know, the reason they've chosen to use WhatsApp is because that's the way they want to communicate. And I think it's a courtesy that people expect these days, that you talk to them on the platform that they want to talk to you.
So Paul, businesses that have adapted and sort of tried to roll this out, do you find there's any sort of resistance at all in terms of them feeling that perhaps WhatsApp communication is in some way less personal, and that a telephone call could do more than just the simple messaging?
I think it's just the way we communicate in our personal lives is, here's a great analogy I always give, is if I call my wife and she doesn't answer the phone, I don't email on her Hotmail account. And it's and also, you know, what we're doing is we're facilitating the will of WhatsApp. WhatsApp are rolling out their platform, which is the WhatsApp API globally. And one thing we've probably added on more clients in the last 6 months than the previous 16. I don't know the exact numbers, but my gut tells me the curve is definitely doing this. And I think, you know, the other, and these guys might testify to this, is that everyone has perceived up until very recently WhatsApp's a free app on your phone, but the way that we deliver it in a centralized inbox is very, very different to how everyone perceives WhatsApp as they know it right now. But certainly with a lot of agents, and it's not just estate agents, we deal with recruitment clients, automotive brands, is that staff are starting to use WhatsApp and bypass email that's on their desk. because they're realizing that the phone isn't just being answered anymore. I don't know what these guys what they think, but the feedback we get is that 25% of phone calls are answered. So the vast majority don't get answered. So it could well be a simple case of, like I said earlier, if I call my wife and she doesn't answer the phone, the next thing I do is follow up on WhatsApp. So I think even just that most basic change of how a team can communicate quicker with a client, because it's a 96% open and read rate. They're not opening emails to that level. So I think that's just a couple of things that we certainly hear from a lot of people.
James, do you feel that, to a certain extent, when you contact somebody in WhatsApp, it is a very personal communication sometimes, because you get those two little magic blue ticks that tell you that somebody's received and read the message, but also they're free to respond to you when they can and where they want, and maybe sometimes there's a sense that people don't want a lengthy phone conversation. They're happy to confirm offers or appointments and viewings by WhatsApp simply.
Yeah, absolutely. I think most people don't like speaking on the phone anymore. It's one of those where we found that, like Paul just mentioned there, nobody's answering the phone. 25% only have been answered. The other 75%, you're left thinking, do I leave them a message? Have they got the message? Do I need to call them back again? Whereas if you are going to follow up with WhatsApp, you just follow up with WhatsApp and you can see when they've got it, when they haven't got it, if you need to chase it up again. But we found the response from WhatsApp brilliant. As you know, we've been speaking with Paul over the last few days in terms of where we're looking to integrate it even further into the business. But it's like the new email, whereas before people were sending an email, they're now looking to send a WhatsApp.
Yeah.
I was just going to say there that I don't think people necessarily see it as a personal intrusion, because invariably they're opting into most of these. These aren't. And I say it to every prospect or meeting I have. This is not the silver bullet for cold marketing. It's for people further in the funnel. You would never. And WhatsApp have ways of preventing and shutting down accounts that kind of breach their ways of their rules of engagement, as it were. So these are certainly everyone around the table, the virtual table, as it were. No one here is using it for cold outreach. It's only for people who've inquired on a property or asked about evaluation. So I don't think people see it as customers see it as a personal intrusion, because 9 times out of 10 they're all incredibly happy to be engaging with that agent on the subject matter in hand. It's certainly not cold outreach. So that's why I think it works for people.
I think most people see it as a convenience. They like the fact they're getting a WhatsApp rather than being hassled while they're at work with a call, or whilst they're at home with their family in the evenings. It's a WhatsApp, like you say, they can respond to at their leisure.
Yeah. And personally, I can't remember the last time I actually sent an SMS message out. My mode of messaging tends to be sort of WhatsApp. It handles media a lot better, and there's all sorts of little tricks on there in terms of being able to sort of send files and voice notes and whatever else. And I just think it flows a lot better. Jack, in your business, what sort of applications have you put WhatsApp into?
We've integrated it across all of our sales and lettings, and it has transformed it, especially as a sort of a filter. So you're mentioning, is it impersonal? But from a perspective for us, it's great that we can get over a weekend, any given month, our Birmingham branch can have 180 properties available to let. Busy branch. But a lot of those sort of leads that come in will need filtering, but by the automation that we've built in with Paul and intercepting all the right move leads, you're getting to that filter and getting to the better leads more quickly. So that's where it's helped us drastically, is get rid of sort of leads that, I'm just looking around, and you can get down to the nitty-gritty to people that will want to view, are in a position to buy. And in this market, that's really what everyone needs at the moment. We've got very little stock, and we need good buyers, good sellers that are in a position, rather than people looking to waste the time. And it's transformed all that, especially all the automation.
Graham, in terms of automation and making it sort of breeze through your business, where have you seen the sort of efficacy of this?
My
been a big advocate of WhatsApp for a long time, and I think, like any social media, it's become habitual with a lot of people, and it's their preferred method of communication. If you pick up the phone to a lot of people, they're slightly affronted that you've called them. Like, what are you doing? Why are you calling me? And I think we especially see that with some of our younger buyers and our lettings clients as well. So we've implemented it in a few ways. If you put a lettings property on the market, you have an abundance of leads coming in straight away, as I'm sure we all know. So you can build an automation where it will divert all of those leads, say, to, for example, Gavel, which we use, the online kind of virtual viewing tool. People can book their own appointment through that, and then we can take them through a journey that's completely automated, spend half an hour on the property, but we've whittled down 50 applicants to 2, and that's, you know, an incredible time saver. The other way we use it is an autoresponder. So if you inquire property through Rightmove or Zoopla, you'll get an automatic WhatsApp straight away. And then we built the automation so it takes that buyer through the journey of registering with us. And then we're using Street, the new CRM, which a lot of you probably have heard of, where our buyers can then take themselves to a diary and book themselves in 24/7 as well. So we're using it in a way that, one, makes the user experience a lot easier and smoother, but also for us, it just makes things incredibly efficient as well. So I think there are definitely a couple of ways you can use that that make your life efficient, but also you're building better engagement and you're building richer relationships with your buyers and your potential landlords and vendors as well.
Yeah, I've never really thought of it that way, but you're probably right that that phone call is an intrusion on their personal space, especially if they're not able to sort of take that call at work or wherever it is. It does anger them more than it is likely to get them on team. But Paul, you've got some fantastic statistics in terms of the open rates. 96%. I mean, that's staggering, isn't it? Compared to the median.
It's what, 7, or it's about, I think on certainly Gmail and Hotmail accounts, the open rates are sub 20%. B2B is very different, but in the B2C market space, yeah, you'll see a NAD. And I did a number crunching before we came on this call. We are also responding, not just for estate agents, Rightmove, but we do it for Auto Trader, for car dealers and piston heads, those sort of things. So we get a very accurate view of delivery rates, and the delivery rate is close on to 90%. So you know, for that ability to respond quickly, 90% of everyone is getting, and with a 96% open rate, you know, you can do the maths quite quickly. With all those leads coming in, instant response, instant qualification. And I suppose if someone was looking to maybe buy to sell their property, if they're out there looking, it's that, is it a perception of efficiency? I don't know, there are so many aspects to it, but yeah, it's a delivery rate of 90% and open and read rate of 96. And I think it's that speed of open and read as well. And obviously, as these guys will testify, you can see when the customer has actually read it. So, and I also, another bit of feedback I've been given is that even if the negative responses, no one's going to call you and say, oh, you know, the bad news, or I don't want to see it, or I don't want to do this. You actually get the negatives as well. So you can then know where you stand and move on, and then not waste time with the time wasted. So, but yeah, the numbers are pretty, I think pretty, well, the reason why they're so high is because of that, and there's no spam, which is what I alluded to earlier, is that you would never use this for cold outreach.
Nice and clean, isn't it? Most people are using it just for personal communication.
And that's why WhatsApp have some pretty, I wouldn't say strict rules, but they don't want it to be used because they realize if it turns into a spam fest, the open and read rates won't be that high. So you've kind of got to use it, you know, as I said, to those people who are closer in the funnel. And that's, you know, and that's how you'll maintain those high read rates.
And it's not just estate agents that are using this application with WhatsApp. It's some major brands out there. So I think British Airways and HSBC and major organizations are now understanding that there are some points and benefits to be gained by actually communicating with customers in a slightly different way.
Totally. You've mentioned some pretty big brands there, and of course they've got sort of capability and manpower to roll out WhatsApp, because it's not the simplest from a delivery point of view. The consumer experience is nigh on the same. So clearly, what we've tried to build here is an environment for SMEs, you know, whether it's estate agents, car dealers, recruiters, to be able to open up the channel relatively quickly and get on board. Whereas these other brands, there's a lot of B2C sectors rolling this out globally.
It's great to see that they've got such trust in that method of communication as well, and that therefore it's probably here to stay. In terms of applications for estate agents, I've heard of some agents having some success managing sales transactions by keeping their chains together in sort of WhatsApp groups. Have any of you guys tried to use it for progressing sales?
Yeah, I've got all of my vendors on WhatsApp groups on sales progression with my sales progressor. I haven't linked it with other agents or other chains yet, but in terms of communicating on a sort of daily or weekly basis, yeah, absolutely, WhatsApp's the easiest way to do it.
In terms of these guys will know that at the moment the WhatsApp API doesn't support groups. It was released briefly when they let it out, and then they took it back again. We've been given no timescales. It's one thing we're really quite hoping for, because clearly you can have branch husband and wife but that very much with what we're delivering at the moment is primarily focused on branch to individual. So that side of it, I think, is sort of wait and see, but they've told us it's coming. As to when,
because if they do bring it back, I presume therefore you could have solicitor and then also the vendors involved in one group, and you could possibly have the buyers, their solicitors in another group, and it just makes it easier to make sure that everybody. I think a lot of what we do as estate agents is communication and facilitating that communication between the parties, and there can sometimes be a lot of misinformation within sales chains, and it's our job to sort of go up and down those chains and make sure that everybody's on the same page. So I suppose WhatsApp, if it could lend itself to that, would be superb.
I think it's a natural evolution. It will come. I mean, the WhatsApp API is still in beta. We're incredibly early to market, and everyone sitting around here are early adopters, and it will come. But unfortunately, not quite yet.
And now having had this, obviously, it's something that your customers must be commenting on as well. Has anybody sort of used it as a differentiator, as a instruction winner when you're?
Well, yeah. So around the tape. So if we just take the sample that we have here, I think the vast majority of you guys auto respond in WhatsApp. So we're not a lead management solution, but we happen to deal with leads quite well because there's a 90% delivery rate on there. Plus there's the automation there. But in answer to that question, we have some clients who use us purely to deflect phone calls rather than outsource to a third-party call answering service.
Yeah.
So, James, you guys have used voice to WhatsApp. So, you've got, when a call comes in and the team can't answer it, well, what options are there? Drop the call, voicemail, pay a third party, take a message. So that automation journey. So everyone has a different pain point. For one of our larger clients, large corporate chain, is compliance. The thought of having every sales negotiator with an individual WhatsApp account. So for them, it's compliance. For other people, it's lead automation. For other people, they just want to put a widget on the website to be accessible over WhatsApp. So I think everyone's reason to do something comes from a pain point or a cost in the business they want to eliminate. So there's different reasons why people would roll out WhatsApp, and everyone will have a different reason.
Let's pretend that Paul's not with us on this call for the moment. Pete, how easy has Paul been to communicate with, and as a company, in terms of getting to know your needs, how have they reacted as a supplier?
Well, you can tell just by hearing him speak that he's somebody that communicates easy. I think he was a key factor in. I'm not saying he never shuts up. I'm just saying that our conversations tend to go off. But in all seriousness, he's been able to respond to and I think that was the big difference. Certainly when it comes to, because the automations that we've spoken about are really useful. As one of the other speakers has said, we use it not only for lettings to pre-qualify people, to answer the same questions that you hear the staff saying over and over again. And in fact, actually, what we found is the team themselves have evolved their own automations because they're just repeating the same questions, and then they save those into a template and then they reuse them. But Paul was really helpful in getting us set up with those initially in the first instance, because those automations aren't the simplest thing to work out in terms of there's a response and what you have to there's a little bit of, I wouldn't call it programming, but there's some stuff to be done there that's really useful. But something that you alluded to earlier about instructions, we use it, COVID has seen the rebirth of the QR code, and we use our WhatsApp QR code. Well, it was on our offices when we were closed. It goes on our 2020 and our touting literature, so people can just WhatsApp about the valuation of their home, which is something that none of our competitors are able to do. We have the widget on our website, so we can convert web chat into WhatsApp if somebody's on the website on a mobile, which we know. I mean, Milton Keynes has, I think, the youngest demographic in the country. So from our perspective, we have plenty of people who would much rather communicate in that way. But yeah, Paul's been a key part in getting us. I think the really important thing with a lot of prop tech stuff is people will sell it to you, and then what do they follow through on whether or not you get the value from it? And I think apart from annually when they're going to tell you how much the price is going up, but that's not necessarily.
Then they're your best friend again, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Presumably after this call, the price is going down. So
everybody's just received a WhatsApp message from Paul in the last 3 seconds. I can see a lot of nodding heads here as Pete was saying that. I'm presuming there's a lot of agreement around the table at the moment in terms of the value that this has added to your businesses. Is there anybody else that's got any other sort of applications that they would like to sort of apply WhatsApp to in the future?
Yeah, I think we've, as Paul was mentioning earlier, in terms of our calls, how we're dealing with our calls at the moment, and in reference to your comment about how Paul's helped out, is that we've got lots of ideas running around at the moment, and then you have a chat with Paul and says, well, why don't you look at integrating WhatsApp here, and not something you thought was possible. And Paul's come up with some great ideas for us over the last few days, even. And I forget which evening it was, but I was having difficulties. One of those getting templates approved. It was 9 o'clock in the evening, and Paul's WhatsApping me, I've got it sorted for you. I'll send you over a loom in the morning. And that's the kind of service you're getting from Stips and Paul.
It's a great point that you just raised inadvertently there, but communicating with a customer late on in an evening, you couldn't pick up the phone to anybody necessarily at 9 o'clock at night, but you could very easily WhatsApp them and get a response. Pete, you go for it.
Yeah, no, it's just a couple of things on that point. One of the reasons we wanted WhatsApp is because we were reacting to the fact that some of our staff were already involved in WhatsApp conversations with clients. And I don't know about anybody else's WhatsApp groups, but that could be quite dangerous if the wrong message is sent to the wrong person. But secondly, actually, it's reintroduced or reinforced a level of competition within the branch. So because obviously when I'm old enough to be around pre-internet, and that was all about how quickly you got to the door and how quickly you got to the phone. And nowadays, obviously, most branches will, I assume for us, we have the Rightmove leads, Facebook leads coming into a central point, and they're dished out. So what WhatsApp has done has meant that the negotiators are competing with each other to get, because the leads are all open until such time as somebody deals with them. And the way we run it, we let people compete. So if a negotiator wants to log on at 9 o'clock at night and answer a couple of WhatsApps that have come in since the branch has closed, then those are his leads to earn from. And actually I think the customer gets a better level of service because of that.
I think it becomes a great out of hours communication tool as well, where traditionally agents have stopped communicating at a certain point. You're there pretty much 24/7 for your customers.
I mean,
I think on this as well, sorry guys, I was just going to say, I think on this there is a growing expectation that we do things out of hours. And I was at Purple Bricks for 5 years and we saw it almost every day. And those who were dealing with those inquiries in the evening were the ones that were going to win the business. And we'd set up a WhatsApp group at the point of valuation, quite an informal thing to do, put the husband and the wife in there. and then ping a message into the group late that evening, evaluation reports there, and then you've got a really informal in with them to follow them up later in the week.
Yes.
And the conversion with my LPs that did that was just through the roof. And if you look at any of the reviews that I've gained, my business has gained from my time at PB or here at Expose, people will say, you know, they speak to us at a time that works for us, and people love that. And I think there's a growing expectation that we should be doing that. But it's easier when it's on your phone. You're going to be sitting there scrolling through Instagram or Facebook or something anyways. Why not spend that time doing something that's a bit productive, that your customers loving, and that's earning you revenue as well? So I think there is a growing expectation that we do things out of hours, and this makes it really easy to do that.
The sign of the healthiest marriages is when the couple are sat there ignoring each other but scrolling down their phone. You know that everything's working okay. But that is why when we as agents try and communicate with people, we tend to, I know I've always chosen my posts on social media to go out in that kind of evening slot after people have put the kids to bed and they've got a bit more time to sort of look at these things. Jack,
I was just going to say, following up from Graham's point, you know, a word Paul has used a lot in our conversations over last year is it's asynchronous. You say, whenever you send it, if you were to even do, we used to do power hours where we'd stay late, you know, have a pizza and start calling people in the evening because people are at work in the day. You send a WhatsApp, you know it's there. So you know that if they've blue ticked it, it's been read, and they can respond to you when they want to. And again, if people want to work late in the evenings, our next certainly do occasionally. Again, you haven't got to worry, oh, did they get that call? Have they listened to the voicemail? You know, I get voicemails every now and again, and someone said, oh, did you listen to my voicemail? No, it's 2021. I haven't used voicemail in years.
Yeah.
But you know that with WhatsApp, they've read it. You can wait there. The ball's back in their court, and you don't have to feel like you're constantly badgering them. And again, it's that level of communication and customer service. And sort of circling back on that point with where we hope to go in the future, you know, we're all agents around this room, but the business I work in, we have other facets to it. So, I mean, on a block management point of view, you know, we manage over 15,000 units across the UK. And our tenancy services department's huge because we manage another 8,000 tenanted properties. So we've currently integrated it to sales and lettings very front end. But I'm hoping to then expand it again to block management, all of our residents. You've got a building with, you know, 500 apartments in it that we manage, say, in the centre of Birmingham. We already have software where they can log on to have a look at any issues, notify us of an issue, the lift's broken. But how good would could it be that you could just scan a QR code? They are definitely coming back. We use them all over to contact us with a problem, or you can just WhatsApp us with this notification, or we can send out a template message to say to this group of people via the tags, really sorry, the lift's broken. Maintenance has been notified. It'll be fixed in 6 hours.
Yeah.
How much handy is that? Just to, you know, you're sat at home watching something on TV, 7 o'clock at night, and you get a WhatsApp from your management company going, look, lift's broken, but don't worry, people are on site are fixing it.
Yeah.
Oh, great, I didn't even know. But you've had that communication.
With urgent items like that, I would have much more confidence that a WhatsApp message would get read at that time of night than say an email or any other form of communication. And it's going to make life a breeze in terms of volume communication. That's the main thing. So I can see massive applications there in terms of block management.
In fact, James, because you guys did a recent bulk broadcasting for some, because that's what we were setting up to the other day, but that was what, 200, 300, 400 messages in a couple of clicks.
Yeah, it was a message we need to get out nice and quickly. And to be honest with you, it was a formal notification we sent them on email, but we were WhatsApping to say, please check your email effectively, just to make sure they got that message, because we wasn't confident that they would read their email, but we knew they'd read the WhatsApp.
It would be really handy for service messages, and I know that we at the beginning of lockdown, all estate agents had to sort of inform their clients what the procedures would be at the office, whether or not they'd be taking clients personally at the office, or how to communicate with them, what their working hours would be. I suppose you could use it for broadcast messages like that as well.
Yeah, and there's very little that there's a lot of different applications, certainly in like the block management. So yeah.
That's fantastic to see how you guys have embraced it and how your customers have also equally sort of responded well to it. And it sounds like you've got a great working relationship with Paul at Stitch, and everybody's highly recommended to get in touch with Stitch and find out how it can transform their business and help them automate everyday processes that take a lot of human time, but actually we can add a lot of value sometimes by communicating people on their own with them on their own terms in the manner in which they would like to be communicated with. And I think that very much is where our business is going in the future. So I'd like to thank all our panelists, Pete, James, Jack, Graham, and of course, Paul Gandalf from Stitch.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
David.
All right.
Cheers, guys.